Richlands is a fine place to live. We have the type of people who help one another. The town was built in 1890 by the coal company, Clinch Valley Coal and Iron Company, who came here. And the stock market crash of 1893 brought an end to that. The town had to regroup on its own. And then we had some boom years, of course, when coal was going great guns. But we've had some slack times since then.
When I lived here, it was real vibrant. Coal was really flowing and lots of activities, and it was a nice place to live.
The original mural was painted in 1984, and Ellen had done one indoor mural. This was her first outdoor mural.
Ellen Elmes' mural, "The Past That Makes the Future Better," is painted on the west wing of this historic building.
This mural, as well as many others that Ellen has done, they tell a story. And it's an important story, the history of Richlands.
We look to it as a history lesson, I think. It has a little bit of all of our history in every section of it.
Well, it's 40 years old, and the mural has begun to fade. It's just too important to let it go, fade away.
The lifespan of any mural is limited because the UV rays are going to eventually cause the acrylic to break down, making it seem like the colors are faded.
Well, for one thing, the Richlands mural needs to be restored because it's starting to fade.
I was really happy when Mary and Ginger asked about a way to refresh, redo the mural, because the murals are like my children, and it really bothers me when I see them deteriorating.
For the last several years, we would drive by that mural, and she would just sort of hide her head because she was so upset at how the mural had deteriorated over time.
Our goal in restoring the mural is to be able to have it continue for another 20, 50 years, and so it's to bring it back, keep it alive.
But this new process will be a longer lasting mural.
The one thing that's been most challenging for me is to get people to understand how the whole process works. Everybody's so accustomed to painting on the actual brick surface, and this is a whole different technique that it's on fabric panels that absorb the paint, and also the way that it is administered on the building.
Now, with this new process, you don't have to do the whole thing in 90-degree weather, dodging thunderstorms and what have you. You can work inside. You can include other people in the process. You can have 20, 30, 40 people all working on it to create a mural that not only represents a community, but's created by a community.
I had the good fortune of being on the Virginia Commission for the Arts in the 80s, and I could see projects that were happening around the state. And so I thought, well, if they can do murals in Norfolk, we can do them here.
Citizens for the Arts is a cultural arts organization that functions throughout Tazewell County.
So then CART came along about the same time. In 1981, I think CART is the Citizens for the Arts, and I was the director of that. So this was the first major project for CART to undertake.
Well, Citizens for the Arts actually originally started as the Community Artist Residency Training. And that was an opportunity for us to be able to bring in artists, and we didn't want to have to travel to experience quality art.
This mural came into being because of CART, Citizens for the Arts, and Mary Lawson.
Richlands in Tazewell County, including the community college, we have probably more public art per capita than any small town.
People in Richlands at that time were real innovative to, bringing arts and artists, and like they had this group, CART They supported that mural and made it happen.
People were enthused from the beginning.
And it was really a community project because we had the community name it, we had the community help with it, and we got the garden club to do the landscaping.
And CART raised the money and sponsored it. And then the Virginia Commission for the Arts gave us a grant. So it was all doable from the beginning.
It was a real tough paint job because that building was really rough. I don't know how she did it.
I would paint a whole segment or a certain image, and then I would have to climb off the scaffolding, cross the street to the railroad tracks to see how it looked from that distance and at that height, because it's completely different. And often I would find, oh, this doesn't stand out enough, or I can't see what I thought I had put in as a highlight. And so it's up and down a lot.
When I did stories about the mural, I explained what it was about, and then I would do progress reports. One time I think I climbed up there with her, talked about the view. Everybody seemed to be really excited about it, and people would go by and look at it and talk to her and stuff, and there was a lot of excitement.
I was 11 years old and wrote the essay about what the mural meant to me, and I won that essay contest.
I was a fourth grade student at Cedar Bluff Elementary School, and I named the mural. When they announced the contest, they also announced that there was going to be a $50 savings bond attached, so everybody was pretty eager to take part.
They had a contest, said write an essay about the mural and what it means to you.
I had an idea of what it looked like. The coal miners was what struck my curiosity about the whole mural and what stuck with me because my father was a coal miner. Richlands had really gotten its financial foundation on the backs of those coal miners. The title that my older sister and I came up with was The Past That Makes the Future Better, and that was the title that was chosen and picked to represent the mural.
My family, my mother's family, was the Goodwins, and they had the Goodwins weaving mill in Cedar Bluff. And in the top left-hand corner, there's two paintings of those woolen products, and then I wrote about that and about the people that came over. And the first relative that came over had a ship crash, and then he was holding on to a steamer trunk, and the water was so cold he went deaf.
When the mural was finished back in 1984, different people in CART and other people in the community organized a dedication ceremony. And originally we had wanted to have it out in front of the mural, but it was pouring rain that day. The First Christian Church right across the street, they opened their doors and we had the ceremony there.
And we all went in, I think it was a church, and everybody was packed in there, and it was wonderful.
There were 3 people who stood up. One was a teenager, a middle-aged person, and an elder. Since I'm an elder, I call it elder now. And they each stood up and expressed what the mural meant to them and their generation. And I'll never forget that. It was a beautiful taking of the mural into the community.
I thought they'd messed up. I thought that when they told me I won, I was so excited. I don't think I'd ever had $50. That was the prize, a $50 savings bond. And my parents made me save till I got into law school.
I was very excited, and proud to have the recognition in school, and excited to be able to spend the proceeds of the money I thought was going to, come to me. I didn't realize the process of a savings bond and how it had to mature. But my dad made good on that because he was able to give me $25 to spend.
It was good for my confidence, and then I had to read it in front of the at the dedication.
During the ceremony, the initial ceremony to dedicate the mural, I remember seeing the title and Miss Elmes' name on the mural, and I was a little disappointed, thinking that, you know, who's going to remember that I named it, because my name was not on that mural.
I think from the beginning, this mural has been a source of pride. That's been something I've learned and been very fulfilled by over the years as a muralist, is how a community ends up taking it as their own.
The mural is central to, I mean, the personality of Richlands, for sure.
My greatest passion is my art. It's been that way my whole life. I've lived it, I breathe it, and I have to make art. I was fortunate that I grew up in New Jersey, just outside of New York City. And as a teenager, my friends and I would take a bus, go into Manhattan, and I would go to the Metropolitan Museum, the Museum of Modern Art. I had favorite paintings that I would visit. Picasso's Guernica was one of them. I was just fascinated by it. When I was a student at McDaniel College, I was part of a team for 2 summers that came to West Virginia. And we were able to work with children and do recreation with them and install a library in the community. And I'd never been to the Appalachian Mountains. I'd never been in that culture before. And it was life-changing. I fell in love with the people. And when Don and I married, I said, I haven't had enough of the mountains. Let's go back. I got into mural painting accidentally, truly. I got selected to be one of 4 artists who painted in the concourse of a civic center. And I didn't even think twice about whether or not I knew how to paint a mural, which I didn't. So I literally learned on the job. I'm just amazed that that came my way, because it's made the beginning of my whole mural career. I'm also a watercolor artist, and I think of my watercolor painting as my soul painting, as different from mural painting. Mural painting's very much based on fact, but my watercolors come from deep within. Being an artist can be a lonely endeavor because you're often by yourself at your drawing table or the canvas, the easel, or wherever. But the outcome of what you create becomes something to exchange with your audience. Once I put it out there, I get the response from other people and how they see what they're coming to that I've created. I think art is such an important entity in all of our lives, and I know it's part of who we are as people, because just watch a child painting or drawing. It comes naturally. It's with us when we're born to create. Making art is part of being human, and it's so important to share our expressions with one another. Don Elmes is my husband of 54 years. He is my partner in art. We have worked together for all of those 54 years.
My role is quite simple. Ellen paints, and I do all the rest.
Often the work he does is behind the scenes.
I have the skills in construction work. I have the skills in computer work where I can pitch in and make the whole process run more smoothly.
He's a scientist as well, so he knows all about that aspect of it. But Don is much more than that. He's a gardener, he's a photographer, he is a graphic designer, and most of all, he's the love of my life. The process of creating this mural and any mural is quite extensive. I think people don't realize when they see a mural going up on a wall what comes before then. Murals are a documentation of mostly stories, human stories. I end up sometimes spending 6 months, half a year, interviewing people, researching, going to archives at libraries, collecting pictures, collecting written statements and stories. The design and the imagery within it are built on the history of this community.
The mural preserves the history of all Tazewell Countyans. We have different races and nationalities, different forms of work.
Ellen has been so successful in keeping so many details in her art and covering so much territory at the same time. Brother Bob Sheffey comes to mind. He's riding his steed. He was a quaint man of the Bible, and he came here routinely to do revivals, his last one being in 1898.
Ellen's representation of a black quilter in her mural is very good. It depicts an older woman, which normally an older woman would be the one that would be doing the quilting. Our moms, grandmothers, who will sit around the table and stitch and talk about history.
She prefers to sit at her drawing table and do that whole process manually.
Then my husband Don comes into the picture very strongly, because once I make the sketch, he then scans it into the computer.
I put it in Photoshop, blow that up to the full size of the mural, and then I separate that into
a grid for the panels that the mural will be broken down into.
Once that's all done, I can send those in Dropbox to a friend we have in Philadelphia who will prepare the Pellon material and
prints the design onto, just black and white, onto the panels.
He then sends that back to us.
Don cuts up the panels.
And I carefully trim them so that the lines are perfectly straight, so that one panel can butt right against the next panel when we put it on the wall.
They'll cover over the old mural. The fabric panels that we're using to recreate this mural, each one is about 4 foot by 4 foot, and there are 36 of those panels. When they're put on the wall permanently, they'll go edge to edge. The fabric that we're using for this mural is called Pellon.
It's treated on both sides with an acrylic gesso. When that dries, it's like a canvas material.
And it's very flexible. When we finish painting on a panel and it's dry, we can roll it up, take it home, take it to the church, but it's also very sturdy, and it will serve on the wall as kind of an extra layer that separates the wall from the paint, which is a very good thing because some of the masonry walls bleed salts and can cause eventually damage to the paint, but this fabric actually blocks that aspect of deterioration. and then it's the painting process. And the paints I use are golden paints. It's kind of a top-of-the-line brand that I very much like, and it's very lasting.
The people at Golden have developed what they feel are the best products for making a mural. We feel that the paint will last longer than the paints that Ellen used in the past.
We're using acrylic paint for this project because it's the best for any mural. Acrylic paint is chemically made in a lab, and it was developed in the 60s, and when it dries, it becomes plastic, so it's particularly enduring because plastic doesn't go away. And I really love working with acrylic paint because it flows pretty easily, and yet it's thick enough that you can feel the tooth of it going onto the wall or onto the fabric. It's just an excellent medium to use for murals. This mural has been a team effort. There were 9 of us involved in the whole project. 7 of us worked on a regular basis 3 days a week at the Methodist Church in Richlands, painting on tables, on fabric, as a wonderful team.
It's like a team effort. We all are either assigned or request certain sections of the mural panels, and we will work on those, and slowly it all comes together. I kind of picture it like working in a community chorus. None of us are individuals. She's the master, and we all do our little section, and in the end it all comes together as a beautiful completed project.
Ellen has all the paints on a table, and as soon as different people get there, she asks them what they would like to paint.
It's so well drawn to start with, and she has the colors pre-mixed in little square boxes of stuff, and if it's not working, she says, "Oh, let me fix that," and she runs over and she puts some more white or something in it, and it comes back and it works. She just has a wealth of brushes down there, and she says, "You pick the brush that works for you." And there are some of us who like stiffer brushes, and there are some of us who like more fluid brushes. So you get to work with the instrument that works best for you.
People would be surprised about the brushes that we use or I use. Many muralists use very large brushes, and the style of their design is big, swooping, large pieces and shapes, but mine has a lot of detail, so I range from a large brush to real small brushes.
She leads you through the process, how much paint to put on the brush, how close to the edge, if they're supposed to meet. If they're not, you're supposed to go over the line or under the line. So it's very easy.
We've all been downstairs painting together, and it can be any age, any group, any range of talent, because Ellen is such a wonderful teacher. We all have had the opportunity to learn and to paint together.
She is just a very easygoing, lovable person, and even working with her, she's a teacher, which is wonderful. So when I paint with her, I always learn something new, and she's always teaching me whether or not she knows it.
Ellen really does make the impossible possible if you've never tried it before. So definitely I want to thank her for opening my eyes to the wonderful world of paint.
Painting is kind of like therapy. All your troubles are gone. You're just finding your paint, getting your bucket of water, picking out the right paintbrush, and doing something that's gonna last for another 20, 30, 40 years when I'm long gone. So I love it.
Sometimes she will prearrange, and it's almost like a paint by numbers. So she will mix the paint for you, and then you will paint according to the number that's on the canvas. Also, she will also give you some artistic freedom. So some of us are also doing some of our own work on it to mimic what it originally looked like.
two people who have had more experience in painting took their panels home with them and worked from home in their own studios.
When I work on this project, she has it wonderfully divided up into a whole grid of panels. So when I look at the master mural, she either will assign or sometimes I'll pick what I'd like to paint. For example, when I painted the potato picking lady, she covered maybe 3 panels. So I had to bring 3 panels home and then use from the paints that Ellen has provided, maybe mix up some colors or use my little snapshot of what it should look like and match it up to that.
I've done some of the library, the actual library painting itself, which is really nice since I work here. And I've also done some of the dogwood flowers, and I'm going to be doing the train, which I really like the industrial type painting, so I'm very excited about that. And those panels I've been bringing home with me to paint.
But they would come and join us every so often, and we had to put panels together to make sure we're all coordinating it properly.
We have laid out everything in the fellowship hall so we can see how well we were matching across, because you can get little variations in colors, and sometimes we would have to go back and repaint a section just so it would match the section it was matching up with.
I'm so glad you all could come today, and I want to take a few moments just to express my very deep gratitude. I can't tell you how much I appreciate your commitment, your good work, and I so appreciate all of you.
The panels are painted, and once they're all painted, we can prepare the wall, cleaning it, putting the coats of primer.
Don originally took us up on the lift and showed us how thick he wanted the primer on the wall to paint over the original mural,
which took a lot of time and effort in the sun. I don't know how many days it took. It's quite some time, maybe like a week or so of painting over the original mural.
And putting on a grid on top of that primer, showing exactly where each panel will go. That will be our guide for installing the panels.
We were ready to start putting up fabric panels. So Don took us up and explained the process.
We take an acrylic gel that we put on the wall, covering each panel area and covering the back of each panel, one at a time, and then installing that on the wall.
Putting it up like wallpaper.
We squeegee out the excess gel so that it's attached firmly but directly on the wall. And then we, using our fingers, run through the mortar joints to get out the excess gel there.
Squeegeeing all that gel out of the mortar, that was difficult.
And as the gel dries, it shrinks slightly into the mortar joints more, so it makes it look like it's directly painted onto the wall.
Basically, just he'd give us a couple practice runs, showed us how to do it, and then after that, he just turned us loose.
When that's done, we go back and touch up any areas where there are cracks. And then we put on several coats of the UV protectant. And that's the whole process.
I've learned a lot from this project. Every mural I do, I learn a lot more, even when it's a mural that I'm repainting. Because it's interesting after, 40 years. One thing I've learned is the other people that worked with me, that wonderful group, I learned through them how they saw it, and it was amazing. I learned a lot to see through their eyes as well as my eyes.
These murals represent something historical about the community and something that they've grown to cherish over the years.
Once it gets up there on the wall, it becomes the community's mural.
In 30, 40 years, I can bring my kids and I can show them and I can tell them that I worked on this, and I can tell them all the stories about me working on it. I can tell them about Ellen and Don, how wonderful they were.
This has been such a group effort. Unless you were in that room, I don't think you would know which part, who painted. So I can stand under that mural and say, aha, those daisies are mine, but I don't have to tell a soul.
Even though we just hung it up, we were part of it. Our names might not be on it, but we were part of it.
I think that it will be well remembered because of what she's done.
Ellen is 77 and I'm 76. We obviously have a limited time frame left to do much in the realm of mural making. The time may come where we can no longer get on lifts or scaffolding to install them, but we will teach other people how to install them.
That time comes when you think, well, how much longer can I be doing this? But art is part of me, so I'm going to do it as long as my body will and mind will allow. I would like to have people remember things about me through my murals. I mean, one of the greatest gifts of being an artist is that you get to leave behind you your work. I hope those murals and murals I've done all over the place will be my legacy.